The stars looked cold and distant through the viewing window of the research ship. Dr. Minho Park pressed his face against the glass and watched space drift by. He had been studying alien life for 10 years, but he had never found anything truly exciting. Just dead rocks and frozen gas. The ship was called Harmony's Edge. It was big enough for 47 people to live and work. Most of them were scientists like Minho. They traveled through space looking for new forms of life. So far, they had found nothing but disappointment. Minho walked back to his lab. The room was full of computers and strange machines that could read signals from space. He sat down at his desk and turned on the main computer. Every day he listened to the sounds of space. Most of the time, he heard nothing but static. Today felt different. Minho put on his headphones and started scanning through the radio waves. At first, everything sounded normal. Then he heard something strange. It was very weak, almost hidden in the background noise, but it was there. He played the sound again. And again. His heart started beating faster. This was not natural noise from space. Someone or something had made this signal on purpose. Minho ran to find Captain Nari Choi. She was in the main control room drinking coffee and reading reports. Captain Choi was a tough woman who had spent 20 years in space. Nothing surprised her anymore. "Captain," Minho said, breathing hard, "I found something. You need to hear this." Captain Choi looked up from her reports. "Another false alarm, Doctor?" "No, this is real. Please just listen." Minho played the recording on the ship's main speakers. The signal was weak and full of static, but everyone in the control room stopped what they were doing. They could all hear it. Something was trying to communicate across the vast emptiness of space. So-Young Lee, the communications officer, came running over. She was young and very good with computers. "Where did this come from?" she asked. "I don't know yet," Minho said. "But it's old, very old. Maybe 200 years. So-Young sat down at her computer and started working. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. Numbers and symbols filled her screen. "I can clean this up," she said. "Give me a few hours." Captain Choi called a meeting. All the senior officers came to the conference room. There was Chief Engineer Jae-won Kim, a quiet man who could fix anything. There was also Tae-hyun Jang, their military advisor. The company had sent him to protect the scientists if they found something dangerous. "What do we know so far?" Captain Choi asked. Minho stood up. "The signal is artificial. Someone built a machine to send this message. It's been traveling through space for about 200 years. Where did it come from?" asked Jae-won. "I'm still working on that," Minho said. "But it's far away." "Very far." So-Young entered the room carrying a tablet. She looked excited. "I cleaned up the recording," she said. "You're going to want to hear this." She played the new version. The static was almost gone. What they heard made everyone go quiet. It was a voice. Not human, but definitely intelligent. The creature sounded scared and desperate. It was speaking in a language none of them had ever heard before. "It's a distress signal," So-Young said. "I'm sure of it. The pattern repeats every few minutes." Someone was asking for help. Captain Choi leaned back in her chair. "Can you translate it?" "I'm working on it. The computer is analyzing the language structure. It might take some time." For the next 3 days, So-Young worked without stopping. She barely ate or slept. The other crew members brought her food and coffee. Everyone wanted to know what the message said. On the 4th day, she called another meeting. "I have a translation," So-Young announced. Her voice was shaking. "But you're not going to like what it says." She pressed a button on her tablet. The alien voice played again, but this time words appeared on the screen in English. "Help us," the message began. "We are the Villani of the world you call Kepler 442c. A great sickness has come to our people. It eats our minds and kills our children. We cannot fight it. We are not fighters. We are peaceful. We have always been peaceful." The room was completely silent. Everyone stared at the screen. The message continued. The mind eaters spread quickly. "Every day, more of our people die. We have tried everything we know, but nothing works. This may be our final message. If anyone receives this, please remember us. We were a good people. We loved art and music and growing things. We never hurt anyone." The message ended with coordinates, the location of their planet. "How far away is Kepler 442c?" Captain Choi asked. Jae-won was already working on his computer. 1,200 light years from Earth, he said quietly. Everyone knew what that meant. Even at top speed, it would take them 300 years to reach that planet. By the time they arrived, not only would the Volani be dead, but so would everyone on the ship. It's impossible, Captain Choi said. We don't have enough fuel to make that trip. Jae-won looked up from his computer. Actually, he said slowly, we might have a way. Everyone turned to look at him. The new quantum fold drive, Jae-won continued. The one the company installed for testing. It's never been used for such a long distance, but the math says it could work. What's the risk? Asked Tae-hyun. Hi, Jae-won admitted. The drive might burn out completely. We could be stranded wherever we end up, and there's a small chance the ship could be destroyed. Captain Choi stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long time. Finally, she turned back to the group. We need to vote, she said. Everyone on this ship gets a say. If we do this, we might never see Earth again. But if we don't, those coordinates will just be the location of another dead world. The vote was held the next morning. All 47 crew members gathered in the main hall. Captain Choi explained the situation again. She made sure everyone understood the risks. When the voting was finished, the result was clear. 47 votes to attempt the rescue mission. 0 votes against. Minho looked around at his crewmates. These people were willing to risk everything for aliens they had never met. For a species that might already be dead. Set course for Kepler 442c, Captain Choi ordered. The Harmony's edge changed direction. Ahead of them lay the unknown. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. The quantum fold drive made a sound like thunder when it started. The whole ship shook and vibrated. Minho held onto his desk as the lights flickered on and off. Through the windows, space began to look strange. Stars stretched into long lines of light. Colors that had no name swirled around the ship. Some crew members got sick from watching it. How long until we arrive? Captain Choi asked over the ship's communication system. Jae-won's voice came back full of static. If everything works right, about 6 hours. If something goes wrong... He didn't finish the sentence. 5 hours into the jump, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed in every room. The quantum fold drive was overheating. Jae-won ran through the corridors toward the engine room. His tools bounced in his belt as he moved. When he reached the engine, smoke was pouring out of several control panels. The drive is burning out faster than I expected, he told Captain Choi through his radio. I can keep it running long enough to reach the planet, but after that it's finished. We won't be able to jump again. Captain Choi was quiet for a moment. Then she said, do what you have to do. Get us there. Jae-won worked frantically with the engine controls. Sparks flew from the damaged circuits. The ship groaned and shuddered around him. But the drive kept running. 6.5 hours after they started, the Harmony's edge dropped out of the quantum fold. Space returned to normal. Stars became points of light again instead of streaks. In front of them was a beautiful blue and green planet. It looked almost like Earth, but with 3 small moons orbiting around it. There it is, Minho said, staring at the world on the main screen. Kepler 442c. So-young tried to contact the planet's surface. She sent radio messages in the Volani language she had learned from their distress signal. She waited for an answer. None came. She tried again with more power. Still nothing. The planet is silent, she reported to Captain Choi. No radio signals at all. Tae-hyun prepared the landing shuttle. As the military advisor, he would lead the first team to explore the planet's surface. Dr. Yoonji Nam, the ship's expert on diseases, would go with him. So would Minho and 3 other scientists. The shuttle was small but fast. It could carry 8 people safely. As they flew toward the planet, Minho watched the surface grow larger through the windows. He could see cities. They looked like they were made of crystal and grew up from the ground like trees. But no lights were on in any of the buildings. No vehicles moved on the roads. It looks abandoned, Yoonji said quietly. They landed in what appeared to be the center of the largest city. When the shuttle doors opened, sweet air flowed in. The planet's atmosphere was safe for humans to breathe. The city was incredible. Buildings rose hundreds of meters into the air, all made from some kind of clear crystal that sparkled in the sunlight. Gardens with strange purple and silver plants grew everywhere. Water flowed in streams between the buildings, but there was no sound except the wind. Where is everyone? Asked one of the other scientists. Tae-hyun had his weapon ready, but there was nothing to fight. They walked through empty streets that should have been full of life. The crystal buildings were beautiful, but they felt like tombs. Minho found the first body in a park near the city center. The creature had been about the size of a large deer, but it walked on two legs like a human. Its head was long and elegant with what looked like antlers growing from the skull. But these weren't regular antlers. They were made of the same crystal as the buildings, and they still glowed with a faint blue light. "This must be a Villani," Minho said. He knelt down next to the body. Even though it had been dead for a long time, he could tell it had been beautiful when it was alive. Yunji came over to examine the body. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the creature's head. Something was growing inside its brain. Where the Villani's eyes should have been, there were holes. Black web-like structures had grown through the skull and out of the eye sockets. "What could do this?" Minho asked. "I don't know," Yunji said. "But I want to study it back on the ship." They found more bodies as they explored the city. All of them had the same black growths in their heads. Some were adults, but many were smaller. Children. Taehyun found a building that looked like a library or a museum. Inside were thousands of crystal tablets covered with Villani writing. Some of the tablets were still glowing softly. "We need to take these back to the ship," he said. "Maybe they'll tell us what happened here." As they loaded the crystal tablets into the shuttle, Yunji collected samples of the black growth she had found in the Villani bodies. She put them in sealed containers and labeled them carefully. "I want to know what killed these people," she said. The shuttle trip back to the Harmony's edge was quiet. Everyone was thinking about the empty city and the dead Villani. They had traveled 200 light-years to find only ghosts. On the ship, Yunji went straight to her laboratory. She prepared slides of the black material and put them under her strongest microscope. What she saw made her step back from the microscope in shock. "Taehyun," she called over the ship's communication system. "You need to see this. Right now." When Taehyun arrived at the lab, Yunji was staring at her computer screen. The image showed something that looked like a cross between a plant and an animal. It had long, thin tentacles that moved even though the creature was supposed to be dead. "It's still alive," Yunji said. "After all these years, it's still alive." As they watched, the creature on the screen began to move faster. Its tentacles reached out toward the edges of the slide, as if it was looking for something to grab onto. "What is it?" Taehyun asked. "I think it's a parasite," Yunji said. "It lives inside the brain of other creatures. But I've never seen anything like it before." Suddenly, alarms started ringing in the laboratory. The sealed containers where Yunji had stored her samples were getting hot. Something was happening to the parasites inside. "They're waking up," Yunji said. "Our presence here is waking them up." Through the laboratory windows, they could see the planet's surface. The empty crystal city was no longer dark. Lights were beginning to flicker on in the buildings. After 200 years of silence, something was stirring. "We need to tell the captain," Taehyun said. "I think we're in trouble." But before he could reach the communication system, the ship's main alarm started ringing. Captain Choi's voice came over the speakers. "All crew members to emergency stations. We're detecting movement on the planet's surface. Something big is heading toward us." Minho ran to the observation deck and looked down at the planet. The crystal city was glowing brighter now, and from the city center, something dark was rising into the sky. It looked like smoke, but it moved with purpose. It was coming straight for their ship. The dark cloud from the planet was getting closer to their ship. Captain Choi ordered everyone to prepare for emergency departure, but Jaewon had bad news. "The quantum drive is completely dead," he reported, "and our regular engines don't have enough power to escape the planet's gravity. So we're trapped here," Captain Choi said. "Yes, Captain." "We're trapped." The dark cloud reached the ship and began to surround it. Through the windows, the crew could see that it wasn't smoke at all. It was made of millions of tiny flying creatures, each no bigger than a butterfly. But these creatures looked wrong. They had too many wings and eyes that glowed red in the darkness. "They're trying to get inside," So-young said. She was watching the security cameras. The small creatures were pressing against every window and door, looking for a way into the ship. Yunji was still in her laboratory, studying the parasites she had found. "I think I understand now," she said over the communication system. "These things eat brains. They're like a virus, but much worse. They take over the mind of their host and use the body until it dies." "What do they want with us?" asked Taehyun. "Fresh brains," Yunji said simply. "They've been sleeping for 200 years, waiting for new food to arrive." The creatures outside were getting more aggressive. They began to scratch at the ship's metal hull with sharp claws. Some of them found small gaps in the ship's armor and started squeezing through. "We have parasites inside the ship," Taehyun announced. He grabbed his weapon and ran toward the section where the creatures had entered. In the lower decks, chaos was spreading. The flying parasites were attacking any crew member they could find. But something strange was happening. Instead of taking over human minds like they had done to the Villani, the parasites were dying. Taehyun found Dr. Hyunwoo Song fighting off 3 of the creatures in the corridor. But the parasites looked sick and weak. They were moving slowly and their red eyes were getting dim. "They can't hurt us," Hyunwoo said, breathing hard. "I don't understand it, but they can't hurt us." Taehyun watched as one of the parasites tried to attach itself to Hyunwoo's head. The moment it touched human skin, the creature began to shake and fall apart. Within seconds, it was dead. "Get some samples," Taehyun said. "Yoonji needs to see this." In her laboratory, Yoonji studied the dead parasites that had tried to attack the crew. Under her microscope, she could see that the creatures had been destroyed from the inside. Something in human biology was toxic to them. "It's our immune system," she said excitedly. "These parasites evolved to attack the Villani nervous system. But humans are different. Our brains and bodies have different chemistry. We're poison to them." Captain Choi gathered the senior officers for an emergency meeting. Through the conference room windows, they could see the planet's surface. More and more lights were turning on in the crystal cities. The parasites were waking up everywhere. "We have a choice," Captain Choi said. "We can stay on the ship and try to survive until help arrives, which might be never. Or we can go down to the planet and try to solve this problem." "How can we solve anything?" asked Jaewon. "We're just 47 people against millions of parasites." Minho had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. "What if we're not here by accident? What if this is why the Villani's message reached us?" "What do you mean?" asked Captain Choi. "Think about it," Minho said. "The message traveled 1,200 light-years through space. It had to pass by thousands of other planets and civilizations. But it reached Earth. It reached us." So Young was working at her computer while they talked. "I've been analyzing the Villani crystal tablets we brought back," she said. "I think I found something important." She put a translation on the main screen. It was from one of the last Villani scientists, written just before the parasites killed everyone on the planet. "We have discovered the truth about the Mind Eaters," the message read. "They are not from our world. They came from the stars long ago, destroying other civilizations before they found us. We are not the first to die, and we will not be the last. But in our final days, we have built something, a quantum transmitter that will send our plea for help across the galaxy. Perhaps someone will hear us. Perhaps someone stronger than us will come." The message continued. "We have stored the consciousness of our greatest minds in quantum crystals. If the right species finds us, if beings with the proper neural energy arrive, our knowledge can live again. We can help them understand what they face." "Neural energy," Yoonji said. "They're talking about brain activity. Human brain activity might be different enough to power their storage system." "Are you saying we can talk to them?" Minho asked. "To the dead Villani? Maybe," Yoonji said. "If we go back to the planet and find their storage facility." Captain Choi looked around the table at her officers. "It's dangerous. The planet is full of parasites now. They might not be able to hurt us directly, but there are millions of them. They could overwhelm us with sheer numbers." "We have to try," Taehyun said. "If these parasites have destroyed other civilizations, they won't stop here. Eventually, they'll find a way to spread to other planets, maybe even Earth." The decision was made quickly. A team of 12 crew members would return to the planet's surface. They would search for the Villani consciousness storage facility and try to learn more about the parasites. This time, they took more weapons and equipment. Yoonji brought every piece of medical gear she could carry. If humans really were toxic to the parasites, she wanted to understand why. The shuttle trip down to the planet was more dangerous than before. The sky was full of flying parasites and they swarmed around the shuttle like angry bees. But they couldn't get through the metal hull. They landed in a different part of the Crystal City, far from where they had been before. This area had larger buildings that looked like they might be important government or science facilities. As soon as they stepped out of the shuttle, the parasites attacked. But just like on the ship, the creatures died when they touched human skin. Soon the ground around the landing team was covered with dead parasites. "We're like walking poison," Hyunwoo said, looking at the dead creatures. "Our sweat, our breath, even our body heat seems to kill them." They found the storage facility in a massive crystal building at the center of the district. Inside, thousands of blue crystals lined the walls. Each crystal contained the stored consciousness of a Vellani scientist or leader. Minho approached the largest crystal. It was glowing brighter than the others, as if it was reacting to his presence. "How do we activate it?" he asked. So Young was studying the Vellani symbols on the walls. "I think we just need to touch it. The crystals are designed to respond to neural energy." Minho reached out and placed his hand on the large crystal. The crystal blazed with light. Energy flowed through Minho's body, but it didn't hurt. Instead, it felt warm and peaceful. Images began to form in his mind. Memories that weren't his own. A voice spoke inside his head. It was gentle and sad, but filled with hope. "You came," the voice said. "After all this time, you came. I am Lirelai, keeper of the archives. We have been waiting for someone like you, someone the Mind Eaters cannot touch." Minho felt strange with the Vellani consciousness speaking in his mind. Lirelai's voice was like music, but filled with great sadness. "Your people are beautiful," Minho said out loud so his team members could hear both sides of the conversation. "I'm sorry we came too late to save you." "You are not too late," Lirelai replied through Minho's voice. "You have arrived at exactly the right time. The Mind Eaters are preparing to spread beyond our world. They detected your ship's arrival and are now awakening from their long sleep. Soon they will launch spore pods toward other inhabited worlds." Yunji stepped forward. "How do these Mind Eaters spread between planets?" Lirelai's answer came through Minho. "They create biological pods that can survive in space. Inside each pod are millions of microscopic parasites. The pods can travel between stars, looking for worlds with intelligent life. When they find a suitable planet, they release their cargo." "How many worlds have they destroyed?" asked Taehyun. 17 civilizations, Lirelai said. Each one peaceful and advanced. Each one unprepared for the Mind Eaters' attack. "Your species is different. You have something we never had. What's that?" Captain Choi asked. "You are warriors," Lirelai replied. "Your planet forged you in conflict and struggle. Every disease your people survived, every challenge you overcame, prepared you for this moment. The Mind Eaters cannot hurt you because your evolution made you too strong for them." Hyunwoo was taking notes on his tablet. "What can you tell us about the parasite's biology?" Through Minho, Lirelai shared everything the Vellani had learned about their destroyers. The Mind Eaters were ancient, possibly millions of years old. They had no homeworld. They traveled from star to star, consuming civilizations and growing stronger with each conquest. "But they have a weakness," Lirelai said. "All of them are connected to a master core. It is the original parasite, the first of their kind. If the master core dies, all the other Mind Eaters die with it." "Where is this master core?" asked Captain Choi. "Deep underground in the center of our world. It has grown huge by feeding on the neural energy of 17 civilizations, but it is also vulnerable now. The connection that gives it power over all the others also makes it susceptible to the right kind of attack." So-young was working on her computer, tracking signals from across the planet. "I'm detecting massive activity underground," she said. "Something big is moving down there." "The Master Core knows you are here," Lirelai explained. "It is preparing its final assault. But it is also afraid. For the first time in millions of years, it faces something it cannot understand or control." The building around them began to shake. Through the crystal walls, they could see dark shapes rising from the ground all across the city. These weren't the small flying parasites they had fought before. These were much larger creatures, the size of trucks, with multiple legs and heads covered in teeth. "We need to get back to the shuttle," Taehyun said, raising his weapon. But as they ran through the crystal corridors, more of the large parasites burst through the walls. The creatures moved fast despite their size, and their claws could cut through solid crystal. The first creature that touched Jaewon died instantly. Its body dissolved like it had been hit with acid, but more creatures kept coming, and they learned quickly. Instead of attacking the humans directly, they began throwing chunks of crystal and metal. "They're adapting," Yunji shouted over the noise of the battle. "They can't touch us, but they're finding other ways to fight." The team fought their way toward the exit, but a massive parasite blocked their path. This one was different from the others. It had learned to use tools, picking up broken pieces of Vellani technology and wielding them like weapons. Hyunwoo ran straight at the creature. When it swung a crystal club at him, he ducked under the attack and grabbed the parasite's leg. The moment his skin made contact, the huge creature began to smoke and burn. "We don't need weapons," Hyunwoo said as the parasite collapsed. "We are weapons." They made it back to the shuttle, but the flight back to the Harmony's edge was dangerous. The sky was full of the large parasites now, and some of them had learned to throw rocks at flying vehicles. On the ship, Captain Choi called a meeting of all 47 crew members. She explained what they had learned from Lirelai about the Master Core and the threat to other worlds. The spore pods will launch in less than 24 hours, she said. If they reach other civilizations, billions of innocent beings will die. We're the only ones who can stop this. How? Asked one of the engineers. There are only 47 of us against millions of parasites. We use what makes us special, Captain Choi replied. We're toxic to them. Every breath we take creates compounds that kill them. Every drop of sweat, every skin cell we shed, is poison to the mind-eaters. Yoonji had been studying human biology since they returned to the ship. I think I understand why we're immune, she said. Humans evolved on a planet with incredible biological diversity. We've been exposed to more diseases, parasites, and toxins than any other species in the galaxy. Our immune systems are like biological warfare factories. Can we use this somehow? Asked J1. Yes, Yoonji said. I've been analyzing the compounds we naturally produce. If we can get close enough to the Master Core, our presence alone might be enough to kill it. Lirelai's voice came through Minho again. There is a way to reach the Master Core. Ancient tunnels run throughout our world's crust. But the journey is dangerous. The closer you get to the core, the more parasites will try to stop you. We'll need a plan, Taehyun said. The plan they came up with was simple, but dangerous. They would split into 3 teams. 2 teams would create distractions on opposite sides of the planet, drawing as many parasites as possible away from the Master Core. The 3rd team would use the tunnels to reach the core's location. Each team would carry concentrated samples of human biological material. Unji had been working to create a concentrated version of the compounds that made humans toxic to the parasites. If we can't all make it to the core, Captain Choi said, at least we can ensure that our biological weapons get there. The crew spent the night preparing. They knew many of them would not survive the mission, but they also knew that if they failed, the mind-eaters would spread across the galaxy, destroying civilization after civilization. As dawn broke over the crystal cities of the dead Villani world, the 3 teams prepared for their final mission. The Master Core was waiting for them in the depths of the planet, and time was running out. Through Minho, Lirelai spoke to all of them. You are not like us. We were a peaceful people who never learned to fight. But you are warriors born from a world that taught you to survive anything. Today, you will show the mind-eaters what happens when they threaten the children of Earth. The 3 teams left the Harmony's edge before sunrise. Team Alpha and Team Beta took shuttles to opposite sides of the planet, while Team Gamma prepared for the underground journey to the Master Core. Captain Choi led Team Gamma. With her were Minho, still connected to Lirelai's consciousness, Jaewon with his engineering tools, and So-young with her communication equipment. They had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. The entrance to the ancient tunnel system was hidden beneath the largest crystal city. As they descended into the darkness, the walls around them began to glow with a sickly green light. The Master Core's influence grows stronger as we go deeper, Lirelai warned through Minho. It knows you are coming. Above ground, Team Alpha began their distraction. They landed near a massive parasite nest and started their attack. The moment the humans stepped out of their shuttle, parasites began dying just from being near them. But there were so many creatures that they kept coming anyway. Taehyun led the charge, running directly into the swarm. Every parasite that touched him died, but their bodies piled up around him. Soon he was fighting through a mountain of dead creatures. It's working, he radioed to the other teams. We've got their attention. Team Beta, led by Yoonji and Hyunwoo, was having similar success on the other side of the planet. The parasites were drawn to the humans like moths to a flame, even though it meant their death. We're like walking poison clouds, Yoonji reported. The air around us is becoming toxic to them. Deep underground, Team Gamma moved through tunnels that had been carved by the Villani thousands of years ago. The walls were covered with beautiful artwork showing the history of their peaceful civilization. But now those same tunnels were infested with parasites. Smaller creatures scurried along the walls and ceiling, staying just far enough away to avoid the deadly human presence, but close enough to watch and wait. They're learning, So-young observed. They know they can't touch us, but they're following us anyway. The Master Core is controlling them, Lyrelei explained. It's using them as eyes and ears. As they went deeper, the tunnels became hotter. The green glow on the walls grew brighter, and the smell in the air changed to something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in the sun. We're getting close, Jaewon said, checking his instruments. The temperature is rising fast. They reached a massive chamber carved out of solid rock. In the center of the chamber was something that had once been beautiful but was now horrible to look at. The Master Core had grown into the shape of a twisted tree, hundreds of meters tall. Its trunk was made of black, pulsing flesh covered in thousands of eyes. Its branches reached up to the chamber's ceiling and spread out in all directions. Connected to smaller parasites by thick, rope-like tendrils, the creature was enormous, fed by the neural energy of 17 destroyed civilizations. But as the humans entered the chamber, something changed. The Master Core began to shake and writhe as if it was in pain. Your presence hurts it, Lyrelei said through Minho. But it's still too strong. You need to get closer. The Master Core sensed their approach and responded with fury. It released clouds of spores into the air, trying to poison the humans. But the spores died the moment they came near human skin. It sent waves of smaller parasites rushing across the chamber floor. These creatures also died when they reached the humans, but their bodies created barriers that the team had to climb over. It's trying to keep us away without direct contact, Captain Choi said. It knows we're deadly to it. The team pushed forward through the waves of dying parasites. With each step, the Master Core's struggles became more desperate. The creature that had destroyed 17 civilizations was facing something it had never encountered before, an enemy it could not touch or control. Above ground, Teams Alpha and Beta were fighting for their lives. The distractions had worked too well. Almost every parasite on the planet was now attacking them. The humans were winning, but at a terrible cost. Yunwoo fell first, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. As he died, his body released a massive cloud of the compounds that were toxic to the parasites. Hundreds of creatures died with him. Hyunwoo is down, Yoonji reported, her voice breaking. But he took a lot of them with him. More crew members fell as the battle continued. Each death created a growing area where parasites could not survive. The humans were turning the planet's surface into a toxic wasteland for the Mind-Eaters. In the underground chamber, Team Gamma had almost reached the Master Core's trunk. The creature was now thrashing wildly, its thousands of eyes all focused on the approaching humans. It's afraid, Lyrelei said wonderingly. For the first time in millions of years, the Master Core is afraid. But the creature had one last weapon. As the humans came within touching distance, it began to collapse the chamber. Huge chunks of rock fell from the ceiling. It's going to crush us all to stop us from reaching it, Jaewon shouted. Captain Choi made a decision that would haunt her for the few minutes she had left to live. She pushed Minho, Jaewon, and Soyoung toward the tunnel exit. Go, she ordered. I'll finish this. Before they could protest, she ran straight at the Master Core's trunk. The moment her hand touched its surface, the creature began to scream. It was a sound that came not through the air but directly into their minds. Captain Choi held on as the Master Core's flesh began to burn and dissolve around her hand. The creature tried to pull away, but she followed it, pressing her whole body against its trunk. Tell Earth, she said over the radio. Tell them we were what evolution made us to be. The Master Core's death was like a nuclear explosion, but made of pure biological energy. The quantum connection that linked it to every parasite in the galaxy snapped like a broken cable. On the planet's surface, Teams Alpha and Beta watched in amazement as every parasite suddenly stopped moving and fell dead. The creatures that had been seconds away from overwhelming the humans simply collapsed and began to dissolve. Across the galaxy, on 17 different worlds, the same thing was happening. Ancient parasite colonies that had been dormant for centuries suddenly died. The spore pods that were preparing to launch toward new civilizations burned up before they could leave the planet. Minho, Jaewon, and Soyoung made it out of the collapsing chamber, but Captain Choi was lost in the destruction. Through his connection with Lyrelei, Minho felt the Vellani consciousness preparing to fade away. Our quantum crystals are failing, Lyrelei said. We used too much energy to help you reach the core, but it was worth it. You have saved not just our memory, but countless future civilizations. Will we ever see you again? Minho asked. In a way you already have, Lyrelei replied. Every time your species chooses to help others despite the danger, Every time you fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, we live on. Thank you for showing us what it means to be truly strong. The Villani consciousness faded away, leaving only dark crystals behind. The surviving crew members of the Harmony's Edge were trapped on the dead planet for 3 months before a rescue ship from Earth found them. Only 19 of the original 47 had survived the battle. When they returned to Earth, they found a galaxy that had changed. The destruction of the Master Core had revealed the locations of all 17 worlds the parasites had destroyed. Each planet contained incredible technology and knowledge from the civilizations that had been lost. More importantly, the galaxy now knew about humanity. Word spread quickly about the species that had evolved on a violent world and had used that violent heritage to save everyone else. Earth became the center of a new galactic alliance. Peaceful species that had lived in fear of the Mind-Eaters for millions of years now looked to humanity for protection. They built monuments to the crew of the Harmony's Edge on every world, but the most important monument was built on the planet where the Villani had died. In the Crystal City where Captain Choi had made her final sacrifice, a simple stone marker was placed. It was carved with words in both Korean and the ancient Villani language. When their SOS reached the stars, Earth's beasts answered. Below that, in smaller letters, was a message that Captain Choi had left in her final transmission. We were not the heroes this galaxy wanted, but we were the heroes this galaxy needed. Evolution made us warriors, and warriors we shall remain. The galaxy learned an important lesson from humanity's sacrifice. Peace is beautiful, but peace protected by strength lasts longer than peace protected by nothing at all. And in the cold depths of space, where new threats might someday emerge, other species now sleep better, knowing that somewhere in the galaxy on a small blue and green planet, the children of Earth are standing watch. The beasts had answered the call, and they would answer again if needed.